doing some work. So I thought I'd come on early. In fact, I'd love you to tell me which time of day really suits you, those of you who like to watch me regularly, because that would be great, then I'd know. So yesterday we talked about self-care and how important it is to care about ourselves. And I did some personal physical self-care today. Went and got my fingernails done, made myself feel glammy and happy, nice shiny little fingers. Drinking, great part of self-care. We need to keep up the water because this body is really important to us. And as I said yesterday, we don't get a second body. We haven't worked out how to do brain transplants. Which brings me to today's point. Self-care is nurturing the old walnut inside the head, the grey matter, whatever it is you want to call it. Our brains are really important. They control absolutely everything we do. And it is so important to have a bit of an understanding about how our brain and our emotion and mental self affects what we do every day. I remember the first time I experienced anxiety and a panic attack. It was just horrible. I had no idea what was happening. And it wasn't until I came home and talked to the husband I discovered I was suffering from anxiety. It was not knowing what the future would bring. And that's what anxiety is. It's when we start doing the what ifs. What if this could happen and what if that would happen? And it's worrying about the future. It's really the opposite of depression, which is worrying about the past. We can't change the past. Things that have happened, that's it, they've happened. We don't have access to a time machine yet to take us somewhere else to change what's happened and do it again. So that's what depression centres on. And I spent a number of years depressed after my accident where I hurt my back. And one day it just seemed I can't do this anymore. I can't stay and be depressed. And interestingly, when we start to care about our mental self, it's that point when being caught in the anxiety or the depression or whatever it is we're caught in becomes so painful that the thought of change actually becomes less painful than the thought of staying where we are. So when where we are becomes so bad we just can't stand being in this amount of pain anymore, we will do some change. And change is always difficult. So we have to get to that point when things get so bad that we're willing to actually make change. And change is really important because when we're willing to make some change, when we're willing to see that what we are and who we could be is much more than what we are now, life gets really interesting. When we look at having anxiety and depression, but particularly anxiety, I don't know about you, but when I've got something that's making me feel a bit anxious, it's because I'm allowing this to start catastrophising. I'm allowing the old grey matter to go, and this could happen, and then that could happen, and then that could happen, and then that could happen, and we just blow it up and bigger and bigger and bigger, and we come up with these horrible scenarios of what's going to take place. Now, I don't know about you, but I just did a bit of a stock take before I came on this afternoon, thinking about all of these horrible scenarios I've built up in my brain over the years when I'm feeling anxious about things. And none of them ever happen the way I have determined them with my anxiety brain. Ever. You know, I imagine all sorts of things happening, and instead, sometimes absolutely nothing takes place. Not even one little blip takes place. So without one blip, why is it we think about all of these things and we have a head full of ideas and they don't happen? And that's what anxiety is. So we need to actually start thinking about how am I going to nurture myself when I get into these sort of states. Hi, Rebecca. how are we going to nurture ourselves? How are we going to make ourselves realise that this catastrophising is not going to get us somewhere, or sitting in a pit of depression doesn't get us to move forward? Because that's what we have to do. We actually have to move forward every day. We can't stand still. There is only one way, and that's moving forward. So the other big thing about self-care for the mental self, the mind, is our relationships. Our relationships are the most important things in our lives. Now, I am not just talking your family and your close friends and your significant other. I'm talking the people at the football club and the soccer club and the netball club and at your dance club and your theatre company, at your church, at the kindergarten, and all of the different places we meet people, we talk to people. We're in the process of having relationships with all these people. There are different levels, yes, and different intensities, but they're all relationships. And for humans, we are creatures of a community. We're a community-based group. We're not solitary animals. We need to be in communities. So relationships is one of the most important things. So we need to nurture our relationships. It's no different than growing sunflowers, which we're growing at the moment. You don't just throw the seeds in the ground and expect that things will work. Because if you just scatter the seeds, some are going to fall on the concrete, they're never going to grow. Some might fall in the rocky part, they're never going to grow. And then you've got some that'll fall in the nice soil, they will grow. But you know what? They need nurturing. They need the two things to help them grow. They need water and they need sunshine. No different to relationships. You've got them, you've met this person in a perfect place for you to have a relationship, i.e. the fertile ground, but there needs to be sun and there needs to be water. And that could be you giving to a relationship and the other person giving and making a connection. So what I wanted to ask you today and what I wanted to leave you all with today is, what are you doing about your mental self? How are you taking care of yourself? Are you nurturing your relationships? Are you looking after your anxiety and your depression? Are you getting help if you need it? If you're not sure how to move forward, you can even call me as a coach, as an NLP practitioner, or you can call me as a hypnotherapist. So if you need me, send me a private message. But otherwise, I want you to let me know in the comments, what are you going to do to nurture your relationships over the coming week? And remember, they're all different sorts of relationships. So the relationship with your significant other has a different set of nurturing. And we've got Valentine's Day coming up, so I'm talking this now to get you thinking about that. Because you don't need to go out and buy big expensive presents. But what you do need to do is give something to that person from an emotional place, from a place of caring, because that is nurturing that relationship. Spending $30, $50, $300, that's spending money, but is it actually nurturing? It's up to you, but I really want you to think about the nurturing side, because that is the really important thing. And the relationship with your children. How do you nurture? How do you build your relationship with your children if you're a parent? Now, building a relationship with children who are small and young and in your care is very different to nurturing your relationship with children who are adults, children of their own. So think about that. And I'd love people to leave me some messages about how they do that. So remember, we need to self-care our body. We need to self-care our mind. Because when we do those things, we can move forward. And when we're moving forward, we achieve more. Okay, good to see you all. And tomorrow we will talk again about self-care. And I'll see you then. Bye. Now I've got to click the button.